I'll begin the recording. All right, so congratulations again to you, Emily, for winning the first place in the 2022 Salesforce Eccles Ideathon. You did an amazing job, and you definitely impressed a lot of people, including obviously Brandon and Salesforce folks. And hopefully Kara will be joining us shortly. She wanted to talk to you a little bit as well. She's running an errand right now. So let's go through our questions. The first question is not relevant to you. It's how did your team come together? But you're a team of one, so there's no reason to ask that. The second question is, why did you join the competition?
Well, I'm a data science major, and I'm really interested in natural language processing and applications of it. Also, I go to this local aerial arts training facility. It's a small business, and the owner fields a lot of calls every day saying the same things over and over again. And so because of my major, and then because of a business need that I'd like to, help a friend address, I was really interested in chatbots. And I liked that this competition used kind of a no-code interface to allow me to build and to get used to kind of dialogue structures without having to worry about, the tech and code stuff, to give me an introduction to that, so that when I do switch over to the coding and the more technical parts of it, I kind of have an idea of the bigger picture.
So I was just thinking, the first question was, why didn't you, or how did your team come together? And I was just thinking, why did you decide to do this thing solo? So you're into chatbots, but then why do the contest solo?
I have a crazy schedule right now. I'm actually doing 25 credit hours of classes, and they're all math and engineering classes. And so I work for 14 hours a day on school. And meeting with people was really, really hard during that. So that's kind of the main reason. And then on the weekends, I'm working 2 part-time jobs and just absolutely crazy. And so having to coordinate schedule with, 3 other people would have been really hard. And then also, I feel like I talked to a few people about the competition, but kind of outside of the business school, it wasn't really well publicized. And so kind of all the people that I'm friends with and around all day, they didn't even know it was a thing and weren't ready to, take a week out of their schedule and the time to be a partner with me.
Okay. Well, that is quite the workload. Are you going to maintain that crazy pace to graduate early? Is that your plan?
Oh, no, I have a full ride scholarship and I'm just having fun learning about everything that I'm interested in and, enjoying myself.
All right. Wow. Well, that's quite the schedule, man alive. And it's impressive that you were able to put together, a winning project for this competition. All right. Well, let's go to the next question. What were some of the challenges you had during the contest, other than you working like crazy? Maybe that was the greatest challenge.
Geez. Definitely going to the no-code interface for me. I'm so used to writing if else statements and the logic of, and having just that raw interface with the logic of a program. It was really hard for me to have to get blocks and have to go through menus or selections to set it up the way that I wanted. Also, it was hard. I didn't really integrate it with the Salesforce backend. We didn't have data sets or any profiles for that. So setting that up was kind of, or not setting that up, it kind of limited some of the features that I wanted to include initially. I wanted to have the ability to have it send an email on the person using its behalf, and the backend wasn't really set up for that. Trying to think what else. I went to help hours multiple times, getting used to the utterances and figuring out where those were. I couldn't find them initially. And then I would say the biggest part was just kind of coming up with the idea and the overall strategy that I wanted to pursue. That was probably where I spent the bulk of my time, was saying, what do they really need as a center? What can I build that will help them? And then thinking about what somebody who would actually be using the chatbot would want to use it for, and how to make the experience as pleasant for them as possible.
Well, Salesforce's goal was, when they built the chatbot, was to make it easy to work with, because they didn't want people to have to know programming to write a chatbot. So it's interesting that that got in the way for you since you're so used to doing regular programming. And that, of course, that may be a challenge for a lot of people who do development. So you kind of alluded in the next question, are you happy with how your chatbot turned out?
At the end, I was starting to catch on and realize all the chatbot builder could be used for. And I mean, there's still probably things I'm not realizing, but I feel like I just barely am at the tip of understanding all that it can do. And so many more things I'd like to explore with it and try to build out, especially if I had more of like the back end features, and all the cases and like scheduling appointments and all the cool integrations. I'd really like to explore those more.
Well, you just answered the next question, which is what improvements would you have made to it if you had more time? And sounds like you're kind of alluding to that now.
Definitely the utterances and like the NLP part. I had a lot of people help me as I was designing the chatbot because, I can only think of how I speak. When I want to ask a question, I think of how I ask that question. And it was really important to have other people testing it and asking questions in their own ways so that I could capture what they would say when I was choosing my utterances. And I'd like to do more with that. I had very limited groups of people and very limited samples for testing. And if I would have had more time, I really would have liked to, get that more spot on so that anything that anybody types, it will recognize and not tell them to call the center manually.
So you did a lot of testing. That's really good. That's how you find out did you find after you did testing that you had to make a lot of changes then?
Yeah, so I added utterances. That was kind of one round of testing that I did as I was building it kind of iteratively. And then I did some tests just at the end to see if people actually were calling less. Like I kind of talked about this in my design document, but just the experimental setup, having like use cases and then having people versus using my chatbot, comparing the times and then comparing whether they gave up and had to call to ask for help. That was just another round.
All right. Well, we had a little bit of trouble with your connection, or maybe I'm the only one, but you cut out there a little bit, but I got it. All right. So let's go to the next question. There's two more here. How do you feel your presentation went in front of the judges?
I love oral presentations. I love looking people in the eye and explaining my ideas. I was a little bit nervous going into my presentation because so much of it was based on the ideas. I wanted to talk about my design process. I wanted to talk about, what I learned from talking with the associate director of the center, and just everything that led up to it. And then my testing of it before and like the identification of the business objectives, that part excited me just as much as showing him the actual chatbot. So I probably spent 3/4 of the time talking about the idea instead of demoing it. And I was nervous because sometimes when you do presentations like that, they like it. And it was an ideathon. So I was hoping they would like the talk about, the idea portion of it. But I was nervous that if they would have preferred to see the chatbot for more of the presentation and less of me talking about how I got to the final product, that they wouldn't like that. But I guess they did. I'm here now.
Yeah, no, apparently it went well. Yeah, despite the hiccups that you're mentioning. All right, last question from me here is, would you recommend that other students participate in this challenge next year?
I mean, absolutely. I think chatbots are very prevalent on websites. Being able to build them is a really cool skill to have. And any exposure you have to building something is wonderful. And this has really made me think about all the applications there are for chatbots. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, just the local aerial arts training facility that I go to, how much one of these could help the owner there. And I definitely want to continue pursuing chatbots and, learn more about them, and especially the the stuff that goes on. Phrases are mapped to, or like utterances are mapped to intentions and stuff.
All right, great. So Alexi is with Salesforce. I see he's on. And then Brandon, did you have any questions for Emily?
Yeah, I have a couple. First of all, Emily, I can totally empathize with you on the rough, I can't think of the right word, the struggle that you had dealing with the no-code interface. I'm also a software developer at heart. I wrote full stack Java web apps for years at the university. And then I took on this role and I didn't know much about Salesforce. But one thing I loved and what attracted me to Salesforce is over the years, I've come to this philosophical idea that there's not enough developers in the world for all the things we need. And so developers have to focus on writing tools that business users can use to accomplish, solve problems. So, okay, here I am in the Salesforce world, and it's like, well, what do you mean I have to learn how to click all these widgets just right? And they'll only do a limited subset of what my imagination can think of. And it makes me mad because I'm like, if I could just write the code, I could do this. Why can't this do this, right? It's very frustrating. I totally understand that. So, but my questions, my first question is, if based on your experience with this year, what would you suggest that, like, is there anything specifically you would call out as something we should change, something we should, you might suggest we add, or even remove, or something in particular that you liked about this experience that we should keep? I'm curious, not the contest itself, right? Not the whether or not we do it on chatbot or anything like that, but just the overall process. Like, was the experience long enough? Was there enough support hours? Would you have liked to have some other aspect to the experience? I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm leaving it purposely vague.
All in all, I think it was a great experience. I liked that it was launched before a weekend so that we had time to think and to, start working on it on the weekend and then do it throughout the week. I think the time frame was right. I think any longer it would have been too long, and any shorter it would have been too short. The help hours, man, thank you, Mr. Turner. I went to those multiple times, and those, really got me off the ground running. That was kind of the biggest thing I had, was like initially getting started. I didn't understand just the interface and like where to even start. I think that the tutorial or whatever occurred during like the launch meeting, I think that you went over like how to get it up and running for the first time. But like not actually just building a chain of dialogue or like doing the utterances. I might be wrong because I was in class again. That would have been really helpful, as opposed to having to like read documents that were, textual, like having just a really quick and dirty, this is how you do utterances, this is how you do a dialogue chain. There were also some questions I noticed a lot of people were asking during help hours, like over and over again on multiple days, like how to set the delays or how to get the page working or the preview up and running. And so like maybe having videos or putting that together into like a longer getting started session would have been helpful. The help hours though, man, those were great. And honestly, man, thank you, Mr. Turner. He stayed after like literally every single day because help hours were running so far over. And so maybe longer help hours too, or multiple people, or because there were a lot of people and only an hour.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, TJ's got a pretty wide skill set in Salesforce that a lot of people can't compete with. I would love to be in those, but I don't personally have the experience on the tool set to help. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. Good feedback there. I'm curious now a little bit about you personally in your profession. Where do you see yourself going? like what kind of a career and role do you see yourself going towards? And then also how far along in your studies are you? I guess what I'm really asking is, how many more years do you have left? Because we have internship programs in Central IT that if you have interest, I could connect you with people if they have openings.
Definitely. I'm, always interested in any opportunity that comes about to get around the world of tech. Right now I'm a sophomore,
Okay.
so got 2 more years after this. Where
Not
do I
at
see
25
myself?
credits a semester, you don't have 2 more years.
I think she's taking philosophy for fun, right? Stuff like
Right.
that. That's what it sounds like.
Not philosophy, actually electrical engineering classes.
Ah,
Well,
I'm
that's,
just
you're
going to get
doing,
into like brain computer interface stuff and all the deep learning and applications in that area. And then systems engineering, that's kind of my other, interest, doing all the mathematical modeling of business processes and trying to optimize them. And man, I've just been having a blast in that class so far this year. I think it's actually like a graduate level class, but I love it. Let's see, and your question was my career in the future. I have a lot of different interests and things that I want to do, but if somebody asked me like one job that I'm kind of gearing myself towards right now, I would say being like a machine learning engineer. Initially, when I went into data science, I was interested more in like analyzing the data and then suggesting, business decisions based on the data. More of like an analytical role, but I've just fallen in love with the process of coming up with ideas and building stuff and creating stuff. And so I think I'd really like to work on like a software development team, but doing more of like the machine learning or AI, specialization within that, and integrating data into products. And I kind of had an internship doing that this summer and absolutely loved it. So that's kind of where I'm going. But at the same time, I have this interest too in the intersection of like operations research and machine learning. I think that there's definitely a lot of potential that's not being tapped in that. I feel like the operations research people kind of have their models and their methods. And I think that if you could apply like probabilistic machine learning, which the people on the data science side of thing, they aren't thinking about operations research. The intersection of that I think there's tremendous potential for like consulting businesses in that area. And I want to learn everything I can about it and possibly pursue that. And then the third thing that I'm thinking about career-wise, this is a lot. I am really passionate about education reform. I had an experience when I was in high school, when school shut down for COVID. I was kind of asking myself, I'm like, I'm going to graduate in a year. Am I really ready to go out into the world and get what I want out of life? And my answer was no, even though I had like A's and excellent grades and was in all these clubs and, kind of being a model student, I just felt unprepared to go out and make things happen in the real world. And I think a lot of students feel this way. And I've thought a lot about this. Something that really helped me get over that was like starting a small online business and like writing and publishing my first book and just like going through and having major personal projects. That was an experience kind of which changed my life and what I thought I was capable of. And I really want to start a business or some sort of a summer camp, which gives high school students that opportunity to develop that sense of efficacy. So those are kind of my 3 career paths and kind of what I'm gearing towards in the next 5 years.
Right.
wow, that's
that's a lot.
That's a lot, Emily. Yeah.
yeah, that's
I mean,
amazing.
the good news is I know a little company in San Francisco that does quite a few of those things that you just talked about. So think about it.
You'll have to tell me about it. Yeah, and what it's called. And I'm always looking to, talk to people.
Well, you're going to have to give up your 2 part-time jobs you're talking about in order to take 1 full-time job and keep up with 25 credit load or whatever you said. That's just insane. So
I don't know though. She's doing 25 credit hours, 2 part-time jobs, and can do the Ideathon. Personally, I kind of think she can probably take that on too, because she's
no more.
So
that's amazing.
Emily, I don't know if you remember, you presented to in the room that I was in as a judge, and I was thoroughly impressed, not only with the bot itself, but with you. I wanted to let you know that I think in technology, sometimes I think we can lean so hard on the technical sides of the solutions that we design and the problems that we're fixing and forget that humans are using them, right? And what I really liked about your bot, as opposed to all the others that I saw, was the human side of it. And it felt very natural. And it felt like it was designed by somebody who thought of these things in a way that a human would think of them, rather than just, hey, the functionality needs to do this. This needs to trigger this. This needs to trigger this. Because you can design a bot very technically, and I'm sure we've all experienced that on websites. It feels like it's efficient, but it doesn't feel very human. Yours did. Yours felt like almost like it was a person on the other side, which I think is what the idea is, right? That's what artificial intelligence is about. And it's about making, even though it's not a real human there, making you at least feel like there's some empathy there, and there's some, especially with the topics that are going to be discussed with this kind of bot. I think it needs to feel supportive, and it needs to. I love the fact that it was the anonymity of it, especially considering this subject area, that you want to be able to have victims be able to say these things without feeling like they need to, So yeah, I just you impressed me, and I hope you stick in this field. I think we need more people like you in this industry. So thank you for sharing your talents with us. I was extremely impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Alexi. I see that Kara's joined here a few minutes ago. Kara, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
Yeah, and I apologize for being late, Emily. But it's awesome to have this opportunity with you. And I'm sorry I missed the first part. And my question would be like around your decision to do it as a solo participant versus a group. And I'm just kind of curious, like, did you consider using a group? Did you go in with the intent thinking I'm going to do this on my own so that I can, control the time frame and all the aspects of it? And now that on the other side, how do you feel about that decision?
Yeah, the major constraint for me is just extremely busy schedule, 25 credit hours, 2 part-time jobs, training for circus performance. It's just like crazy schedule. And then also I like going to bed early. I get up early and I go to bed early. That is not the schedule of most high schoolers or college students, not high schoolers. And so, yeah, just having a time when we could get together and work together, that was kind of a limit. And then also I'm just kind of around engineering people all day who didn't know about this competition. And then once I had my idea, I really didn't see a need to like get help. I mean, I went to help hours, but I don't think having another person really would have helped. I mean, it was a lot at the end, like writing the documentation and putting together the PowerPoint and doing the chatbot like all on my own. Maybe splitting the work up there would have been nice, but all in all, I made a plan of what I wanted to accomplish each day and worked through it.
Awesome. Yeah, and Brandon just put in the chat the question I was going to ask. So then how did you hear about the competition?
I always am looking at what the business school is doing. I always thought I was going to be a business major, honestly, until I ended up at the U and I was trying to figure out where my interests aligned with like a curriculum. And I was looking into like operations research as a major, but I talked to some people and I found I was more aligned with like doing data science and systems engineering than I was with the actual operations research program. But I always look at the business school because I love the opportunity to think like a business person instead of just like a tech person. That's how my mind works. And so I'm always looking for competitions and, events and kind of ways to be involved with that side of things instead of just, College of Engineering. So
did you see a sign in the business school or did you see social media posting? Like where specifically did you hear about it?
I think it was probably like the business school's calendar of events.
Oh, okay.
I'm always looking on that, and I know they have like a competition page on their website too that, you know, I always look at and think about entering.
Okay. And I'm sorry if I missed this. So are you computer science or engineering?
So data science is like 4/5 of a computer science major and 4/5 of a math major, with like the rest in whatever domain you want to do. And so I'm doing
Okay.
kind of like systems engineering, which is kind of businessy,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, not tied to the business school at all.
Interesting. That's a good note for us next year in terms of promoting better in engineering, because obviously we did a good job in the business school, but maybe there's more we could do to, you know, encourage engineering students to participate.
And especially like having teams of, or, you know, integrated teams, that would be interesting to kind of let
I agree.
both sides of the
Yeah.
campus on campus, like business and engineering are like on opposite sides, and to like bring them together, and the students and the thinking and mindsets, that would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great.
Well, I have to get going because I have to fetch my kids from school. So if you want to keep talking, I can make Brandon the host. I'm not sure if the recording will keep rolling, but I need to duck out. So let me switch over to Brandon.
I'll defer to Kara if you.
I was only just going to make myself available to Emily to ask questions to, and you know, obviously, Brendan, you're more of a technical role, so I don't know if you have any questions. I don't know what your time frame looks like, but Emily, if you have any questions, you know, that we could maybe support you with, that was the only other piece that I was going to leave time for.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to make sure I was answering your questions mainly. I guess,
Okay.
you know, I'm always interested in, you know, what opportunities you have for interns kind of in data science, or, you know, more of the software development. You know, always looking for summer internships kind of in that area. Or if you do like micro internships in sales or something like over Christmas break.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
also, I guess, just the continuation of this and what you're doing with the OEO, and kind of where the chatbot will be built. And
Oh yeah, so Brandon could kind of talk to that piece. And then I was
Sure.
gonna look at stuff on, but yeah, go ahead, Brandon. And then I'll
Okay.
pull this.
So yeah, that was kind of going back to my earlier question, Emily, about a little bit about your where you want to go with your job, what role, and stuff like that. So feel free to reach out to me if you are interested in looking into an internship here in Central IT. We do have a data warehouse business intelligence team. They do a little bit with artificial intelligence. They'd like to do more. I'm sure they would love to interview you and see if they can find a spot for you. I mean, no question in my mind that they would want to find a spot for you if they could. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me, let me know. I'll put you in touch with the associate director over there.
would you be putting your email in chat?
Oh yeah. My team personally, we don't have a spot right now, but if you have interest in serving in more of a development perspective on the front end, like kind of the work you just did, but in other areas than just chatbot, you know, you can express that to me as well. I'll keep you on a very select list of people to check in with if we get openings. Where I wanted to go next with that is, to your point, OEO, what are we going to do? I think someone asked, I don't know if you've had a chance to or have interest in, but if you would like to or haven't already, put together a little recorded demo for us of your chatbot, of not just the chatbot from the, you know, the functional side, but like show your documentation, share your thinking, share, you know, kind of like just what you did with the judges, but in a recorded format that we can, I want to socialize that with the Office of Equal Opportunity. We have 3 interns on my team right now, and they participated at different levels in this competition. And One's a CS major. Actually, no, I take that back. Two are CS majors, but the one of them is so green. Like he was a math major and he took a single programming class in his math major. I don't even know why. And he was hooked. And he is not a computer guy up until that point, and it was just like last spring. So he's taken like 2 programming classes. So he's super, super green. And I just snagged him because I was like, hey, he's got a cool attitude. You know, if you're so interested in the subject that you switch, like that tells you a lot. And so I just snagged him, but he's got a ways before he's going to be proficient. But he participated. And then our other CS guy who's like he's a pretty hardcore developer. He participated a little. And then we've got a master's student who's actually in the IS program who participated. And so my plan is to kind of pull some of the materials together from like the top 4 winners. So obviously would include yours, and let those guys kind of go to town building a proof of concept, sharing some of that work with the Office of Equal Opportunity, like, hey, you know, we think this would work cool. Here's what the students said about this. Here's an example, you know, that sort of deal. Prepare a little proof of concept and a presentation maybe around, well, maybe some questions that our team isn't sure which way would go best, and let kind of Office of Equal Opportunity see that material and think about it. And so yeah, we also have a full-time Salesforce admin that's leading up that project, so she'd be involved as well. But so that's kind of what we're hoping to do, is put together a proof of concept, mostly led by those student interns, with just a little bit of oversight from myself and our full-time admin, and just kind of let them drive it with OEO and see where it goes. And, you know, knock on wood, within a couple months it's in prod, and it'll be cool, I hope. And I'm sure there will be elements of what you did and thought about in there.
Yeah, that's really exciting to see. I just, you know, after talking to the people that I did and stuff, I definitely think there's a need for it, and I definitely think a chatbot will help them. So it's, you know, going to be exciting to go from idea to something that's deployed.
Yeah, we see that team, as I mentioned earlier, we see them drowning under their workload. And there's just, I mean, the University of Utah is basically a state agency. And so our budgets are set by the legislature, and they are what they are, and they can't add more staff. So what can we do, you know? And it seems like, well, let's just get those agents from not having to deal with like the routine stuff that can be predicted and just programmed around.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to kind of echo what Alexi said, particularly for this use case, thinking about that human element in a chatbot and the fact that people may be coming to the site in a state of vulnerability, I think you did a really good job of incorporating that into, you know, your project. So kudos to you on that. I know he already said that, but I wanted to echo it because I really think that kind of stood out, that you really thought through that part of it and why, you know, the circumstance that a person may be in when they're coming to the site and needing information. So
that was one of the points I've made with OEO repeatedly, because they've initially said, well, we've used chatbots and we don't think our constituents want to deal with a chatbot. That's what, you know, they don't want that. And I said, well, you know, my industry, we've seen this with browsers. It's like, oh, I don't need to develop for that browser. None of my visitors come in that browser. And the IT experience says, well, that's because you don't you don't program for that browser, and the experience sucks so bad they go and they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe is what happens with OEO, where people in certain situations, to what you said, Kara, they're in a vulnerable, maybe psychologically distressed place, and they get to that OEO website looking for like a form, and they just maybe are overwhelmed with so much information, they just leave. And maybe the chatbot they would find helpful.
Yeah. And also the anonymity that it allows might be more of a comfort than actually having to reach out and engage with somebody. So
that's also true. Yeah.
Yeah. So on your question about interns and kind of just, you know, knowledge development for yourself. So I put in 2 different links. One is kind of ongoing internship opportunities, and then one is for our summer internship opportunity. And there is kind of a range of different subject matters that, or teams that the interns can be a part of. So you can look into some of that information. And then I also put a link to our Trailhead website, which given your, it seems, enthusiasm for learning, you may find very appealing. So, but it is a free website and you can go on there and learn as much as you want about all the Salesforce products and solutions. There's hundreds of them. So there's a lot out there, but it's a really exciting way to dive in and learn more. And then as you go, you can earn badges and different, statuses that you could add to your resume, your LinkedIn profile, all of those things. Yes, it's very gamified. And but can be a really great, add on to your existing skill set, especially as you look to, your next 2 years in college. So
I don't know. I'll definitely check it out.
yeah, it's great. It's great.
Go look up, if you have never, go look up like Oracle's Java docs and then go look at Trailhead and. you're
Oh yeah,
solving-
I've been on Java.
Okay,
Oh geez,
very boring and hard to digest.
gets the job done though.
What's that?
It gets the job done.
It does
though,
get
when
the
you need
job
to
done and
know
it's
every
thorough.
parameter for a method.
Yeah. But man, I'm a Java developer and that stuff puts me to sleep.
Well, awesome. Well, I think that's all. That's all we had. I don't know if you have any other questions for us. We're
Just-
here.
If I do end up making a video, would that just be sent to Mr. Turner then, or?
Yeah, I think he's the one that's been gathering and distributing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I need him to like reactivate my thing if I wanted to do that.
Yeah, and I know he was working on getting that reactivated for you. This week was our like massive conference called Dreamforce in San Francisco, and he needs one of our engineers to flip a switch and make it happen. And people were very tied up this week, so hopefully, he'll be able to get that done. But I know he was working on it, so we'll
Okay.
keep you posted on that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I follow through with that for you guys.
Yeah, that would be great. So we can, promote the great work that you did. So
Absolutely.
everybody was blown away.
Yeah.
So great job.
Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you for having this competition too.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was.
All right. Well, you have a great weekend. Hopefully you get some downtime because it sounds like you have a very busy schedule.
At least she goes to bed early. So there's that.
That's true. That's true.
It's good
for
habit.
you. So, all right. Take care. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Congrats again.
Thank you.
Ciao.
See ya.